Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunda Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunda Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Jaya Śrī-bādarāyaṇi Jaya Śrī-bādarāyaṇi Gopi Jana Vallabha Jaya Śrī-bādarāyaṇi Jaya Śrī-bādarāyaṇi Yasodanandana Jaya Rajajanana Yasodanandana Jaya Rajajanana Yudhiṣṭhira Manachani Jaya Vrindavan Jaya Kunja Bihari Yudhiṣṭhira Manachani Jaya Vrindavan Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Oh. Krishna Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Go pray. Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Go pray. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Lord, pray. Hare Bol, Hare Bol, Hare Bol, Lord Hare Bol. Jai Jai Prabhupada, 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 Jai Prabhupada. Harinam Kirtan. Hey! Hare Krishna. Good morning to all of you in this most auspicious abode of Śrī Bādarāyaṇi, Śrī Vrindavan Dham, at the lotus feet of Śrīla Prabhupada, his eternal samadhi, the most sacred place in all of the creation. Lotus feet of Śrī Gauranitai, Prabhupada's beloved Krishna Balaram, Śrī Bādarāyaṇi. Thank you for being with us. We're very fortunate this morning to be discussing, hearing, Shravanam Kirtanam, the glories of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Grantaraj, Srimad Bhagavatam. Grant, of course, means scripture, and Raj means king. So Grantaraj, Srimad Bhagavatam, the king of all scriptures. And we're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, 10th canto, chapter 65, verse 3. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Chiram Nabahi Dhashaha Sanyo Jagat Ishvara iti yopyankam alinga netra shishi chatur jalai. Translation. Nanda and Yashoda prayed, O descendant of Dashara, O Lord of the universe, may you and your younger brother Krishna ever protect us. Saying this, they raised Śrī Bādarāyaṇ onto their laps, embraced him, and moistened him with tears from their eyes. Please repeat. Nanda and Yashoda prayed. O descendant of Dashara, O Lord of the universe, may you and your younger brother Krishna ever protect us. Saying this, they raised Śrī Bādarāyaṇ onto their laps, embraced him, and moistened him with tears from their eyes. Purport by the disciples of Srila Prabhupada. Srila Jiva Gosvāmī prayed to Lord Balaram, may you, along with your younger brother, protect us. Thus they expressed their respect for the fact that he is the elder brother, and they also showed him how much they considered him their own son. Om Agyantimidandasya Gyanan Gyana Shalakaya Chaksunimilitam Jena Tasmai Si Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Maro Vishtam Shtapitam Jena Bhutale Shvayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadanti Sva Vedantikam Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrindam Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Shakala Vaishnava Pade More Namaskara Iti Kichu Aparada Nahuka Amara Hoyachen Hoiben Prabhu Jatu Bhakta Vrinda Bandhana Kori Shabara Charanara Avinda. I respectfully bow to the lotus feet of all Vaishnavas, praying that there is no offense in my attempt to please them. To all Vaishnavas who have ever been, and to all Vaishnavas who will ever be, I offer my respectful obeisances to your lotus feet. Shri Vaishnava Seva Ki, Shri Vaishnava Sangha Ki, Grantara Srimad Bhagavatam Class Ki, Go Premanandi. For those of you who are just joining us today, the name of this very chapter, the Srimad Bhagavatam, is Lord Balaram Visits Vrindavan. I just returned from traveling somewhere around the world, and I just inquired from the authorities here what was the chapter they're lecturing on, Srimad Bhagavatam, and they said, oh Maharaj, Lord Balaram visits Vrindavan. So I said, can I give a class? What a nectarian topic. Lord Balaram visits Vrindavan. Actually, having earlier left Vrindavan, because we're somewhat advanced in the 10th canto here, having earlier left Vrindavan, and having spent many, many years with Krishna in Dwarka, Balaram is finally coming back to Braj. Actually, I was reading in detail, he's coming back in a chariot. And it's described after this long absence, because Krishna went to Mathura and he killed Kamsa, then he went and established the city of Dwarka, and he lived with his devotees and associates there for 96 years actually. Krishna was in Dwarka for 96 years. Longer than the combined time that he was in Vrindavan and Mathura. He spent a lot of time in Dwarka, protecting the Jadu dynasty, killing the Asuras and the demons, etc. So now Balaram's coming back in a chariot, alone. We'll explain this later. He's coming back alone, no Krishna, just Balaram. He's coming back in a chariot. And it's described that upon arriving In some of this text, it's described in a kunja, in a grove. Other texts describe it as a pasturing ground, arriving at a pasturing ground. Krishna takes the cows out every day to the pasturing grounds. This is where the cowherd boys associate with Krishna. So he came to a pasturing ground, and the name of this pasturing ground is Karero or Kayero. It's described in Gopal Champu. The name of this pasturing ground, where he first arrived after a long time away from Vrindavan, Karero or Kayero. He surprised a group of cowherd boys. Krishna and Balaram left. All of Vrindavan was crying in separation for millenniums, in one sense. All of a sudden, the cowherd boys are there with the cows, and there's Balaram on a chariot. So as they were speechless, actually, cowherd boys. Like, is this real? Is this a dream? Is this an illusion? Or is this our beloved Maladev? So, seeing their reaction like that, Balaram said, Kayero, which means, what's the good news? He'd been away a long time. Kayero, hey boys, what's the good news? So that's the name Karero or Kayero, meaning the pasturing ground where Lord Balaram asked the question, hey boys, what's the good news? So when the cowherd boys, the gopas, were addressed in that way, they started leaping in joy, dancing in ecstasy. And they replied to the question. What was the question? Hey boys, what's the good news? So the boys said, the good news is that you, Lord Balaram, have finally come back to Vrindavan. Jai Ho! So this is all very interesting. That after leaving Vrindavan and Mathura with Krishna for many years, Balaram's back. But many of you have noted that only Balaram's back, not Krishna. One time my dear godbrother Govinda Maharaj, he was asked by a newspaper reporter, like young boy, like some of you young boys, he'd just taken up a profession of journalist, and he came to Bhubaneswar to meet Govinda Maharaj, a very famous personality in his hometown, or everywhere for that matter. And the young boy, maybe 17 or 18 years old, he said, Swamiji, could you summarize what is the Hare Krishna movement? I would say, yes, it's based on the teachings of Bhagavad Gita, that we're not the body, the purpose of life is to become self-realized, to reconnect with God, and the process is by chanting the holy names of Krishna. I'd say something like that. Well, Govinda Maharaj, he was on another level. He said, in summary, what is this Krishna consciousness movement? He said, crying, 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 crying. Which is true. Ultimately, the Brajbasis, we all want to become Brajbasis. They're just crying in separation from Krishna. So then the boy said, should I print that? Yes, you print. Crying, crying, crying. That's the goal of life. That's an avaduta. So we often hear that after Krishna left Vrindavan, he never came back. In this chapter we're discussing how Balaram's coming back, but there's no mention that Krishna came with him. It may sound cruel, but there's good reasons why Krishna never came back. Everything Krishna does, there's a purpose. So, well, that's a class in itself. We could discuss that for eons of time. But one good reason Krishna didn't come back, because he saw the need to rid the world of powerful demons like Jarasandha. At that time, historically 5,000 years ago, as you know from carefully studying Prabhupada's summary of the 10th canto, Srimad Bhagavatam, his Krishna book, there were many improper rulers on this planet at that time. And one reason Krishna descended was to deal with these asuras, actually. They were only kings in royal dress, they were asuras. So because these devotees were there in Braj and Mathura and other places, Krishna had to stay out of Vrindavan to fight, especially Jarasandha. Jarasandha was very powerful. There was at least 17 battles he had with Krishna. So he was very powerful. That's one reason he didn't come back. He's busy protecting. Just like the father, he doesn't stay home with the family. He goes and he works. That's the way he protects the family. He maintains. He raises money for family affairs. He spends most of his time at the office. So Krishna left Vrindavan to protect the residents of Vrindavan, but in a more subtle way. That by staying away from Vrindavan, he was increasing his devotees' love for him in separation. Separation makes the heart grow fonder. Many of you have come from some distant place, either here in Bharat or in Europe or Australia, America. And after a few days, you're remembering your friends back home, you're remembering your family members, your husband, your wife, and there's some tearing at the heart, isn't there? Separation makes the heart grow fonder. So that's absolutely true in Krishna consciousness. And therefore Krishna left, because in that separation, the love of his devotees increased. Another lecture for 2 hours. But to summarize, Bhagavatam says, 10:47-35. Yata dura ture prishte mana avisha varatate Strinam nacha tata cheta sanikriste si gochere. Bhagavatam. When her lover is far away, a woman thinks of him more than when he is present before her. The Bhagavatam. We're applying that, of course, to the greatest devotees of Krishna, who are the Braja Gopis. So this, Krishna is leaving Vrindavan to increase love, because love reigns supreme. Ad infinitum, the love is always increasing. Here, love is here today, gone tomorrow. But in the spiritual world, love is ad infinitum. It's always, always, always increasing. And one way it's increasing is Krishna leaves. Just try to understand the movement you have joined. Crying, crying, crying. And Prabhupada confirms this mood of vipralamba bhav, which is basically there in the Gaudiya Vaishnava scriptures. This deeper understanding of religion. The word religion comes from the Latin verb reglio, which means to reconnect. So by reconnecting, we establish a lost relationship. So we're going very deep into that understanding of relationships with Hari, Guru, and Vaishnava. All loving relationships. It's only love. Krishna consciousness is all about love. It's love masquerading as a philosophy. But if you stay here in Braj long enough, you'll understand. It's all about love. And part of that love, separation makes the heart grow fonder. So Prabhupada confirms this in his purport to Upadeshamrita, verse number 10. In the purport he writes, indeed, sometimes Krishna puts the gopis into extreme suffering by separating himself from them. Nonetheless, they cannot forget Krishna. When Krishna left Vrindavan for Mathura, Prabhupada writes, the gopis became most dejected and spent the rest of their lives simply crying in separation from Krishna. But don't think it's like mundane crying. Because the more intensely you're thinking of Krishna, the deeper the bhav and the love. So it's something that we just have to accept at this point, and by Prabhupada's grace, one day we may not only understand but experience. That's why we've come to Vrindavan. Prabhupada established this Krishna Balarama Mandir, and in a purport in Srimad Bhagavatam, he invites all the elder generations, all the young boys and girls you keep preaching out there for purification. Work now, samadhi later. But Prabhupada in a purport invites the elder members of the society to come here and spend their remaining days Shravanam Kirtanam, Krishna Shmaranam, remembering Krishna. Because that's the goal. The whole purpose of this movement is to remember Krishna when we die. Yam yam vapi smaram bhavam. But a devotee may be humble and realize that I can't think of Krishna, even when I'm chanting my rounds, I'm struggling with my mind. So how will I remember Krishna when I die? So that question was asked by one great devotee to Ranganath in Sri Rangam, that beautiful deity lying down with Lakshmi, massaging his feet. Hey Ranganath, what will happen if I can't remember you at the moment of death? So that devotee was so advanced that Ranganath replied to him. Sometimes the deity will speak to you when we're advanced. Ranganath said, if my devotee cannot remember me when he dies, I will remember my devotee. Krishna's so kind. So we hear, the next subject's a little complex, but we'll try to analyze it. Of course, there are statements in our Shastras that say that Krishna never actually left Vrindavan. In the Laghu Bhagavatamritam, Srila Rupa Goswami Prabhupada says, Vrindavanam parit yagya param ekam na gacchati. Krishna never takes a step out of Vrindavan. Jeho! But then Sri Rupa says, but even if he does, Breje pakata liyam trin masan viraho. He only goes for 3 months. Sri Rupa Goswami Prabhupada ki. He says Krishna never leaves Vrindavan, but if he does, he only goes for 3 months. And Rupa writes that during that time, when he's gone, he appears to some Brajavasis in their hearts. He's gone, but he appears to the Brajavasis in their hearts. And the acharyas say that such appearances are known as Vishpurti or Avirbhava. Vishpurti or Avirbhava. He's far away, but he appears in his lover's heart. So anyway, how to accommodate these two opposing views? Krishna never leaves Vrindavan, but then again he leaves Vrindavan and doesn't come back. Well, we have Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. Thank God for Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. He makes everything very clear. He explains that there are 2 types of pastimes in Vrindavan. Aprakat Lila, which means unmanifested, and prakat, which means manifest. By unmanifest pastimes, they're going on right now. Here in Ramanreti, this is famous, the sand of Ramanreti. Krishna and Balaram and their friends, they wrestle in the sand. It's going on. But we don't have the eyes to see. Gita Krishna gave Arjuna the eyes to see his universal form. You have to have blessings of Guru and Krishna to see these things. Otherwise, tattva-darshani, we see through the eyes of self-realized souls. So right now, it's all happening. Right here. You could probably just reach out and touch Krishna and Balaram. We have to always remember where we are and not think in any mundane way or make offenses. But these unmanifest pastimes which are always going on, only pure souls can see them. But the manifest pastimes, prakat, when Krishna appears on the earth, everyone can see him, even demons. We're struggling to just have a darshan of Krishna. But 5,000 years ago, Kamsa, he was seeing Krishna right there. Prabhupada said he was Krishna conscious because he heard the prophecy. The 6th son of Devaki is going to kill you. So he was always thinking, when am I going to get killed? Where's this Krishna? But Rupa Goswami says that's not Krishna consciousness. That's not favorable. You have to think of Krishna. Always remember Krishna. Never forget him. Even for a moment, favorably. That's Krishna consciousness. But even demons could see him in his manifest pastimes. So, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says that in his unmanifested pastimes, where, it's happening all the time, he never leaves. But in his manifest pastimes, like when he was here 5,000 years ago, he leaves he doesn't come back. It's philosophical, but we have to understand philosophy to understand rasa. Mostly we talk philosophy, but here in Braj we can speak a little rasa. So today we're dealing with the pastime where Krishna doesn't come back to Vrindavan. But Balaram does. It's interesting. Prabhupada said one time, there's no difference between Krishna and Balaram, except that Krishna is bluish-black like a monsoon cloud, and Balaram's white like a monsoon cloud. But Krishna's avatari, he's the source of all the avatars, so in that sense Balaram is subordinate to Krishna. It's very deep philosophy. He acts as the elder brother and as the servant. Balaram acts as the servant in that he expands as the āsan of Krishna, the chamara of Krishna, the slippers of Krishna, the bed of Krishna. That's all Balaram. And Balaram expands as the dham. Śrī Bādarāyaṇi. But he's a little older, so he's always very protective of Krishna. Dauji. Rajanab established many temples, and many of them are Balaram temples. I visited so many Balaram temples, Baladev, Dauji. So simultaneously one and a little different. We get another 2 hours on that subject matter. Bhagavatam, so even one verse, one line, one word, one syllable, you could go on for hours and hours and hours. As Jiva Goswami does in his Sandarbhas, the greatest scholar who ever lived. Because we need philosophy to understand the greatness of God and then the loving sentiments of God. So Krishna and Balaram left on the chariot, Akura took them away. Yucky West, we say in Polish, just rivers of tears were going. But here we hear Balaram's coming back. And the minute he enters into Braj, hey boys, what's the good news? Yeah, you're back! So this pastime, because this is the theme of this chapter actually, Balaram's coming back, it's the theme. It's described very nicely in Harivamsha. But more so in Gopal Champu. In the Uttara section, chapter 20, Gopal Champu. So I read that because this is the theme here, and Prabhupada studied those books to give his purports for the Srimad Bhagavatam. I carried that suitcase. We didn't have computers in those days. We had to carry the books. So Prabhupada would travel with a heavy suitcase, 32 kilos. That's as much as you can carry on an airplane, 32 kilos. And was full of the commentaries of his own spiritual master, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, Jiva Goswami. Prabhupada traveled with these. The Gopal Champa. I had to carry that suitcase one time. Up the stairs at Bhaktivinoda, 7 Soho Street, Buri Temple, Radha Krishna Temple. I had to carry that suitcase upstairs to Prabhupada's room. We traveled on the plane with Prabhupada from New York to London, and when we got there, that suitcase was missing. So Prabhupada said, someone has to stay and wait for the suitcase. There was Indradyumna, and there was me, and Bhagavan, and somebody else. So I hid behind a pillar, because I didn't want to stay back. Prabhupada was going to go to the London Temple and give a lecture. I heard the Beatles were going to be there. That wasn't the main reason, but... And Yamuna was cooking the feast. Prabhupada was going to speak, so I hid behind a pillar. And Prabhupada said, so, Indradyumna Das can stay and wait for the suitcase. But in every instruction of the spiritual master, there's kripa, there's mercy. When I was a young boy, I was only 19. I thought, suitcase. 2 hours later it came. They gave it to me, and I was a young man, strong. I dragged it to the taxi. These big London taxis. I got inside, and the taxi driver said, so where do you want to go? I said, 7 Bury Place. He said, did you get out of bed on the wrong side? You know, you look really upset. I said, just drive. He said, what's it about? I said, it's about this suitcase. He looked at the suitcase like maybe it's a bomb or something. So we got to the temple, Seven-Bury place, where Prabhupada had installed Radhalundinishvara. But I arrived after everything was over. The brahmacharis were sitting around, they looked like 7 months pregnant, you know, they ate the feast and they're laying there. And you could see the white plates, all the streaks, you know, everything had been, you know, eaten because Jamuna had cooked. And I opened the door, I said, hey guys, is there any prasadam left? Oh, sorry, Baba, there's nothing left. We had it on. Oh. I said, okay, this is a heavy suitcase, can you help me carry it upstairs? Oh, it's so tired. Yes. I'm looking at that suitcase, huge suitcase. So I dragged it up. I've been on a flight for 10 hours. I was hungry. God, I saw this brass panel. His Divine Grace, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. But I was young and, you know, foolish, and I opened the door and I started dragging the suitcase in backwards because it was so heavy. And then suddenly Nandu Kumar, Prabhupada's servant, he said, hey, watch out, you're going to bump into Srila Prabhupada. I turned around, Prabhupada was standing right there in his gamsha. And he smelled, the first thing I noticed, he smelled like sandalwood because he just received his massage or was going to continue his massage. Standing there, effulgent like the sun. Dandavas! All of a sudden, whack! Right here. If I ever get a tattoo, it's going to be right here. Baba slapped me like a young person slapped. And he said something. And I thought, I'm so offensive, I came in backwards, you know. So then Prabhupada, lotus feet were right there. And they walked away. So then I got up and Nanda Kumar was like, I said, what happened? He said, Prabhupada slapped you on the back. I said, yeah, I know. He said, I never saw him do that before. And he said something. I said, oh, well, what did he say? Am I in trouble? He said, no, you're not in trouble. He said, Prabhupada told you, so much endeavor in the material world, but when I take you back home, back to Godhead, everything will be easy and sublime. You see how merciful the spiritual master is for just the simple task of carrying up a suitcase to the room. He's so merciful. So when instruction is given to one disciple, all disciples can benefit from that instruction. So much endeavor in this world, but when Prabhupada takes us back home, back to Godhead, everything will be easy and sublime. So just tolerate whatever the material nature throws at you. You just tolerate, because we're on the path home. Maybe we're not so advanced, but Confucius said, the longest journey begins with the first step. So we're better slowly going in the right direction than running in the wrong direction. So be patient. Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Rupa Goswami says, patience is required. So Prabhupada would refer to these books. So I studied Gopal Champu last night, the Uttara section, chapter 20. And there it goes into great detail. It's like an onion. Well, we don't eat onions, but the poor onion, I can use them as an analogy. There's many skins on an onion, right? You probably don't know, you're all boys born in India. Or maybe you know your mother's cooked onion and garlic, I don't know. But now you stop. That you peel the onion like this. How many skins? The cooks will tell you, not our cooks. There's so many skins on an onion. So there's so many levels of understanding Krishna consciousness. So we can go a little deeper by Prabhupada's grace, Jiva Goswami's grace, and Gopal Champu, and Harivamsa as well. It's described in detail that after the departure of Krishna and Balaram for Mathura and then Dwarka, again the residents of Vrindavan were experiencing the greatest pangs of separation. O Govinda, feeling your separation, I'm considering a moment to be like 12 years or more. Tears are flowing from my eyes like torrents of rain. I'm feeling all vacant in the world in your absence. But Krishna and Balaram were feeling the same pangs of separation. Because love is reciprocal, isn't it? Love is something, it's not a one-way street. Love is reciprocal. So as we love God, God loves us. The difference is we forget Him, but He never forgets us. So therefore, paricaryāyāṁ, He comes to rescue us. So Krishna and Balaram were feeling separation from the Brajavasis. And according to Jiva Goswami, the author of Gopal Champu, one day, that was all introduction. One day Balaram revealed to Krishna his desire to come back to Braj. Isn't that wonderful? One day, Balaram, according to Gopal Champu, one day Balaram revealed his desire to go back to Braj. Krishna, I want to go back to Braj. So Krishna said to him, according to Jiva Goswami, be patient, my brother. We will certainly go in a day or two. Just be patient. We'll go back in a day or two. But 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, 1 week, 1 month, 1 year, they didn't go. We know why. Because Krishna was protecting the residents of Vrindavan and He was increasing their separation. That we told that in the beginning of the class. So sometime later, they're walking together when Balaram all of a sudden just burst into tears, Jiva Goswami. Just burst into tears. And he said to Krishna, my dear brother, how is it that you have not returned to Braj? He's addressing Krishna. Why didn't you go back to Vrindavan? Our father and mother's hearts have been burning in separation from you. I don't understand your intentions, Krishna. It seems as if you've forgotten all the Brajavasis. So Krishna replied very strongly, Hanta, Hanta, Niram Taram, Antaritam Katam, Antaritam Karavani. Alas, alas, Vrindavan dwells always within the chambers of my heart. How can I ever forget Vrindavan and the residents there? But Nanda Maharaj has instructed me that I should not disobey our parents, Vasudeva and Devaki in Dwarka, who will never allow me to go back to Braj. Unable to go against their wishes, my parents, Devaki and Vasudeva, I cannot return to Vrindavan. But I am greatly suffering. I'm greatly suffering. If somehow you can get them to change their minds, then in great happiness, I'll depart for Braj immediately. Can you go and convince Vasudeva and Devaki? Vasudeva and Devaki, they missed Krishna's childhood pastimes in Braj, and now they're associating with him. Do you think they're going to give permission? Go and never come back? Well, Balaram was feeling so much sentiments for the Brajavasis, so he went to Devaki and Vasudeva, and he said, can Krishna and me go back to Braj? So Vasudeva and Devaki, they said, well, let's just think about it. So they thought about it for 2 seconds. And they agreed that Balaram could go back. But out of fear that Krishna would not come back to Dwarka, they said Krishna cannot go. It's a love story, the original love story. People love love stories. This is the only love story. We want to join this love story, not that love story. Prabhupada said one time, we want to fall out of love with the material world and into love with Vrindavan. That's why we've come here. So in his Sarata Dharshini commentary in the 10th canto of the Bhagavatam, Srila Vishnav Chakravarti Thakur writes that when informed of Balaram's proposal, the senior members of the Yadu dynasty said, Pariyasi prema vikyata pitya rav ati vadsulo prema vasyas cha Krishna's thumbs traktana katam eshriti. Krishna's beloved girlfriends are famous for their pure ecstatic love, and his parents in Braj are extremely protective of him. Krishna is controlled by pure love, so how will he be able to leave them and come back to Dwarka? We agree Krishna should not leave Dwarka. What a story! The intrigue, the love, the deception. It's all there in its original sense in Śrī Vrindavan Dham, but in a pure, loving translation. Śrī Vrindavan Dham, okay. Now at this point, one may question how Balaram himself could leave Krishna and return to Braja alone. We're peeling the onion again here and skinning the onion. So Balaram wants to go, but he knows he has to go alone now, because the senior devotees won't let Krishna go, and neither were Vasudeva and Devaki. So Balaram's committed to going. So how could he leave Krishna? They're like this, Krishna and Balaram. How can he leave Krishna behind and go to Vrindavan? So for that we have to refer to Chaitanya Charitamrita, Adi Lila chapter 5, verse number 4, where Balaram is referred to as Dvitiya Deha. Balaram. He's Dvitiya Deha. He's the second body of Krishna. So how could he bear to leave his younger brother? But the answer is found in this chapter of Bhagavatam that we're studying. In the very first verse of the 65th chapter of the 10th canto of the Bhagavatam, where in describing this pastime the word utkantaha is used, which means intense eagerness. According to Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, Balaram had such an intense desire, intense eagerness to return to Braja, that his sobriety, his discrimination, his sense control had all vanished. So he left Krishna behind. Hare Krishna. Onion's getting very sweet. He had this intense eagerness to return to Braj. We also want that intense eagerness, this lowliness, this greed, to come to Vrindavan, not just to come as tourists, but to come in the mood, to imbibe the mood of the Brajavasis. Bhaktivinoda Thakur said, Krishna consciousness is something that's imbibed from other devotees. It's a subtle word. It's like COVID. How did you get COVID? You imbibed it from another person. So by satsanga, by devotees association, by Guru Sangha, by Krishna Sangha, we get this infection, this good infection of Krishna consciousness. So if you just stay here, you'll get it. Even if you do nothing, just stay here, you'll get that infection, that good infection. So because of that intense eagerness, he lost his sobriety, his discrimination, his sense control, and it vanished, according to Vishnu. So he said, I'll go, because it's all transcendental. But Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur states that Krishna himself was actually inclined to let Balaram go, and because he so much loved Balaram. And at that point, according to Jiva Goswami, Krishna recited a verse glorifying Balaram that he had previously spoken in Vrindavan. Famous verse. What is that verse? Here's the verse. This earth has now become most fortunate because you, Balaram, have touched her grass and bushes with your feet, touched her trees and creepers with your fingernails, and because you have graced her rivers, mountains, birds, and animals with your merciful glances. But above all, you have embraced the young cowherd women between your two arms, a favor hankered after by the goddess of fortune herself. Śrī Baladeva ki, Shri Krishna Balaram ki. So Krishna said to Balaram, go. Go to Braj. In fact, he said to him, although I have consoled the people of Braj through the mouth of Uddhava, there's another lecture, I've consoled. Uddhava brought messages to all the different groups of Rajavasis. Although I've consoled the people of Braj through the mouth of Uddhava, wow, you must also give sweet instructions to them. Now get on your chariot, go alone, go quickly, so no one will see. Because if Balaram's leaving Dwarka, you can imagine, the Dwarkavasis, they're also attached. When Krishna and Balaram leave anywhere, it's just, again, Yakiwash, a river of tears. And I was reading that Balaram's departure from Dwarka was so sweet that as he was leaving, Krishna followed behind him for some distance, crying rivers of tears as Balaram was leaving. And Krishna stood there on the outskirts of Dwarka as Balaram was leaving in his chariot, standing there motionless, tears streaming down his eyes, until the chariot of Balaram descended over the horizon and the victory flag disappeared, and then Krishna fainted. Just like when Krishna left Vrindavan. I mean, the whole essence of bhakti is seen there when Krishna is leaving Vrindavan and the gopis are fainting and lying in front of the chariot and crying. There's been many songs and bhajans gone on and on. There's a beautiful Aryan bhajan I heard recently by Fakir Mohan Prabhu, who's late. He's gone back to join Krishna's pastimes in Śrī Goloka Vrindavan. He used to sing this song about the feelings of the Brajbasis when Krishna was leaving Vrindavan. They were all crying. Now Krishna's crying because love is reciprocal. We're trying to love Krishna, Krishna's loving us. It's all about love. So the Shastras say that Balaram went so quickly on the chariot that other travelers on the road could barely see him. It's stated. He went so fast. What was that? Someone said it's Lord Balaram's going back to Vrindavan. And the Harivamsa, because we've been calling Gopal Champu, the Harivamsa says that before entering the forests of Braj, Balaram quickly changed his opulent, princely dress of Dwarka into the simple dress of a cowherd boy. Śrī Bādarāyaṇi, Śrī Vrindavan Dham ki. Maybe you can go someday if you're a fortune hunter, treasure hunter. Maybe you can go and you can find Balaram's princely dress somewhere under the ground out there. Took it off, threw it away. So word spread quickly that Balaram had returned to Vrindavan. But of course, everyone was sad that Krishna was not with him. But Shastra says, knowing how attached Balaram was to Krishna, they were grateful that he left Krishna and made the journey. So it's interesting, Krishna and Balaram, brothers, the good brothers are very close. Blood is thicker than water. Family relationships are stronger than any other relationship. So a transcendental family, you can just imagine. What is Balaram experiencing by leaving to work and going to Vrindavan? Well, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur gives the following verse regarding the mood of Balaram leaving Dwarka to come to Vrindavan. These are the kind of philosophical essays that we like to study. Right? People want to study philosophy, just mental speculation. But we use our brains to understand what are the sentiments of the Brajavasis. What is real love? So we can let go of our false love for the real love. We are works in progress. So we can hear about the love of great devotees. So here's the sentiment of Balaram given by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. Nityananda Swarupopi Prema Tapto Bhajokshasham Yagyo Krishnam Api Chakva Yastam Ramam Mohu Shtuma. He says, let us repeatedly glorify Lord Balaram. Although he is the original personality of eternal bliss, Nityananda, he felt pained by his love for the residents of Braj. And thus he went to see them, even at the cost of leaving his beloved Krishna. Thank you, Baladev. You love Krishna so much, but you left just for the Brajavasis. We say in Russian, Spasibo Bolshoi. Thank you so much. So then now they've got Balaram. So the Brajavasis, they took Balaram to a quiet place. This is the whole mood of this chapter we're studying. Balaram returns to Vrindavan. So what did he do when he came here? A person went somewhere. Well, yeah, what did he do? So naturally, this is the theme for the next month. There'll be many eloquent speakers on this theme of Balaram comes back to Vrindavan. It's like, what did he do when he came here? Just stand there? No. The Brajbasis kidnapped him. They bathed him. They fed him up to the neck. And they said, it's written, they offered him betel nuts. The first day. And the next day, Balaram separately visited all the houses of Braja to meet each and every devotee. He's so kind. Just see how merciful the Lord is. All of them, as they surrender unto me, I reward them accordingly. We would like Balaram to also visit our house. But what is the level of our surrender? We would also like Ram to embrace us like he embraced Hanuman. But what is our level of surrender? The onus is on us. The path is very clear. Srila Prabhupada has made the path. He's enlightened with transcendental knowledge. The path back home to Braj. It's very clear. The onus is on us to be strict in following the rules and regulations. And whenever we have the opportunity to decorate our tongue with the Yuga Dharma, we should do so. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama. That's the path home. Be strict and chant. If you got time, chant Hare Krishna. So the next day, Balaram visited each and every home. So the people said, we had faith that today or tomorrow the two of you would return. You came to my house, but where's the other one? We have passed our time in that way only, maintaining our lives. Holding your feet, we pray that one day you bring Krishna back from Dwarka. So Balaram's one of the original spiritual masters. We say like that, yes? We consider him one of the original gurus. So we can pray to our gurus. We can pray to our beloved founder, Acharya, Prabhupada. A master at whose feet all masters sit. You please bring Krishna back into my heart. You please bring Krishna back into my life. That's the prayer. The Brajavasis were praying, Balaram, you bring Krishna back. He's the original spirit. We can pray to our spiritual master. Guru Maharaj, Gurudev, please. You have the ability. I'm simply running behind you, shouting, Krishna, Krishna! Bhaktivinoda Thakur, please bring Krishna back into my life. And open your hearts so that Guru can bring Krishna back into your heart. Be good devotees. So Balaram, he got sad. Only you came. Yeah, I know. But he was sad too. The Acharyas say that, he explains, the Acharyas explain, one Acharya explains, this mood of Balaram's sadness. We're looking into the mind of God. What other religion, with all due respect, I take all the sacred scriptures of the other religions on my head, but what other religion can reveal to us the mind of God, the heart of God? So the Acharyas say this is the mood of Balaram. They say even if a blind man experiences happiness through all of his senses, he is still not completely happy because he cannot see. Similarly, even though Balaram visited the homes of the Brajavasis, he did not feel happiness within. For Krishna was the source of his life as well as the people of Braja. So a few days later, Lord Balaram went to see the gopis, hoping to pacify them in their good luck, hoping to pacify them in their separation from Krishna. So the gopis asked Balaram, does Krishna remember his friends, his father, his mother? Does he even remember his house? We think not, but still our hearts keep following him. This is love. What is the use of speaking about him? And then they began to cry. We get a glimpse. I was listening to a tape the other day. Prabhupada was speaking about the glories of various devotees. Then he came to the gopis. He said, and the gopis? He said, but they never asked anything from Krishna. And then Prabhupada started to cry. And that was the end of the class. It was the shortest lecture I ever heard Prabhupada give. He was just, explaining the different, like there's 9 karat, 18 karat, 22 karat, 24 karat gold. So devotees are all gold. They all have different levels of love. But Braja gopis are the best. So Prabhupada said, the gopis, They gave up everything for Krishna. They never asked, and then, ooh, tape ends. My favorite lecture. So taking pity on the gopis, Balaram read a letter Krishna had sent for him. A lot of letters came. Uddhava sent letters, Balaram brought letters. Krishna's, sending messages. Would you like to hear Krishna's letter to the gopis that Lord Balaram brought? I'm a little over my time, but I think I have 10 more minutes. I got special, The letter said, Krishna, my dear gopis, all the messages that I have sent you after leaving are full of promises. I will return. My words cannot be untrue. I am most anxious to return. After quickly killing the remaining 7 or 8 enemies of the devotees, I will come back to Braj in 7 or 8 days. Now at that point, all the gopis looked at each other and they said, hopefully, and this was like my favorite quote of the lecture today. The gopis all looked at each other and they said, maybe this time it's true. Right? Even we're just aspiring sadhakas, right? Your heart skips a beat. The gopis. Maybe this time it's true. So Balaram's visit, the acharyas say, gave the gopis hope. Gave the gopis hope. So the acharyas say that hearing these pastimes of Krishna and Balaram should also give us hope that by the process which our acharyas and Mahaprabhu in particular, and the acharyas, the 6 Goswamis, and the pioneer of the Krishna conscious movement, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, and our beloved Srila Prabhupada, the process that they have given us, which is simple and sublime. By that process, our hearts will also become pure. Cheto dharpana marjana, that by the power of the holy names in particular, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, all impurities will washed away. And that golden seed of bhakti or devotion that's there in the heart, then it can receive the mercy of that vibration, Hare Krishna, nourishment. Nourish that seed which will become a creeper and grow, Prabhupada said, through the material creation, break through the Viraj river, go through the Vaikuntha planets, go to Loka Vrindavan, and wrap around the lotus feet of Radha and Krishna and produce the fruits and flowers of love of Godhead. It's figurative, but it's practical, and it's possible by the mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his representatives. When our hearts are pure, we can attract the mercy of Krishna. And the acharyas give a very beautiful analogy. I just love this analogy. They're using, they're quoting Balaram's plow and Krishna's flute. Krishna has his vein of Vamsi, Vamshadhar, and Balaram has his plow. So as we know, Balaram carries a plow and Krishna plays the flute. So they say that with the plow of Balaram's mercy, we can pull out the weeds of our material desires from within our hearts. Just pound them out. And when our hearts are free of all material desires, we can awaken our love for Krishna. And we'll be attracted at that point by the sounds of his flute, calling us back home, back to Śrī Vrindavan Dham, playing his flute, call us back. So the plow and the flute, Krishna and Balaram. No wonder why Srila Prabhupada established Krishna and Balaram as the centerpiece of our temple here. Because with his plow he can beat our material desires into nothing. And with his flute, Krishna can awaken our love for him, for prema. So we can stand before Radha Shamasunya one day and cry. As Govinda Maharaj said, that's the goal, let's hope. So never lose hope, Prabhus. Never lose hope. We may be far from the goal, but we should never lose hope that we can make it. So let us conclude with a relevant verse in that regard today. Right straight from Nectar of Devotion. Back to the basics, back to the lotus feet of Srila Prabhupada, whose grace we've been allowed to wander a little bit through the Gopal Champu and the Harivamsa, Because he carried that suitcase. I know those books were there, so he was quoting, so I've also quoted. And we have our GBC Shastra committee to keep us in line. But let us quote, actually we're quoting Śrī Gosvāmī Prabhupada again, Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, and Prabhupada included this verse in Nectar of Devotion. It's chapter 18, giving us hope. These are very high topics. They're very high topics. But we can achieve by Mahaprabhu's mercy and by Prabhupada's mercy. And we know why, because here's the closing verse. I have no love for Krishna, nor for the causes of developing love for Krishna, namely hearing and chanting, and the process of bhakti yoga by which one is always thinking of Krishna and always fixing his lotus feet in the heart. It's also lacking in me. As far as philosophical knowledge or pious words are concerned, I don't see any opportunity for me to execute such activities. But above all, I'm not even born in a nice family. Therefore, I must simply pray to you, O Gopijana Vallabha, Krishna, maintainer and beloved of the gopis. I simply wish and hope that some way or other, we know that some way or other, Srila Prabhupada, I may be able to approach your lotus feet. And this hope is giving me pain because I think myself quite incompetent to approach that transcendental goal of life. So beautiful. And Srila Prabhupada, final, he comments. The purport is that under this heading of Ashabandha, one should continue to hope against hope that some way or other he will be able to approach the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord. Grantara Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Shri Shri Krishna Balaram ki, Shri Shri Gaurnitai ki, Vrindavaneshwari Shrimati Radharani ki, Shri Shri Radhasham Sundar ki, Jai Gaur Premanandi, Jai Jai Sri Radhe Shyam. Hare Krishna.